here we are. We're at the Saturn Return Party, celebrating your biggest transit. And because we don't dread Saturn return over here, right? So even if you are about to enter your Saturn return, or maybe it already passed, or maybe you've got a few years to go, there's some nuggets in here that I think you will definitely love and appreciate. All right, amazing. So it's actually let's keep going. Let me actually make sure. Okay, perfect. Yay! I'm so excited, you guys. I've been just waiting for this. Okay, so first of all, congratulations. Pat yourself on the back because by being here, you're choosing you. You're choosing to look at your Saturn return in the face and say, bring it on. And honestly, that's pretty badass. So I love this for you. And also, throughout the party, I will be playing some music for a little, I like to call a shake your ass breaks. So when you hear music playing, feel free to join me in a little dance, just a quick little guy. And that's it. Yes. So just join on in during those times. So I'm super excited. It's giveaway time. So kicking off our Saturn return party with our first giveaway. And so here's what's going to happen. At the end of the party, I'm going to do two free readings. Will be like 5 minutes, very mini reading, but I'm going to take a look at your chart on screen and we will look at your Saturn placement or if you have like any pressing questions. Here we go. Got me, AJ. Oh, I know Taylor's jumping in. Sarah. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, incredible. So we've got winners so far. We've got Sarah. All right, let's do one more spin. Ooh, yeah, let's do it, lady. Hell yes. Awesome. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's so exciting. All right, let's get back into it. So we got our two winners. So let's make sure at the end. And anyone can stick around for this. So yes, it's so exciting. All right. Oh, time for a shake your ass break. Oh yeah. All right. Okay. Yes. All right. Love it. You gotta love it. Former dancer, still teaching it, but here we are. All right. So here's the party agenda. I'm gonna go through like WTF is Saturn return. We're gonna go through Saturn in the houses, and we're gonna give a little spotlight to our Saturn and Pisces friends. Then we will look at our Saturn and Aries. We'll talk about Saturn and Aries both in terms of the return and transit. And then I've got some big, exciting news. And then we'll do our free readings and I'll do a Q&A at the very end, okay? Let's get into it. Okay. Oops, let me make sure. All right, so who is she? Who is she? So I am AJ. I'm an astrologer and an educator and a Saturn return baddie, if I do say so myself. I'm a Pisces sun and a Taurus moon and a Gemini rising. Shout out Gemini risings. I also am a traditional astrologer. I use Western astrology as well as the tropical zodiac and the whole sign house system. So now let's get into. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my Saturn return journey because obviously it's what sparked me to start specializing in Saturn return, but really it sparked me like completely getting fully into astrology, like in a serious way. So my Saturn is in Aquarius and in the ninth house. So this was all happening for me in December 2020 through March 2023. And basically, this shook up my entire path, my worldview, because the ninth house is it's international travel, but it's also like expanding your horizons. It's higher education. It is like your belief system is being completely shifted around. And before that, I was making choices that were really based on like what I thought I should be doing rather than what actually made me happy. But I did not even realize that at the time. So it was really the wake up call that I didn't see. Whoops, skipped ahead. That I didn't see coming because I forever I had followed like what I thought was the perfect plan. I would, move to New York City and teach dance, perform. So I was doing that. And then I would go to grad school, climb the ranks as a full time dance professor. I never swayed from that path. I knew that's like what I was always going to go on. And so, like, even though I did everything right to kind of take those steps, it just once I hit my Saturn return, it was glaringly obvious that it just felt like so deeply wrong. And I felt lost and I felt stuck, like something just like was not fitting. And that freaked me out because I never wavered before. So I tried to ignore it. And listen, that is the thing about Saturn because like, you cannot get away with anything. So it's not, when my Saturn return happened that all of a sudden I was needed to change everything or I wanted to completely change my world. I was already having some of these thoughts before that. I'd always had some thoughts of like, do I really want to be in education forever? Like, do I really want to be in a classroom with kids? Like, how, like and I could ignore it, but once your Saturn return hits, like, the things that you were ignoring, like, they are coming to the forefront, okay? So, for me, that was really when I sank into a depression, like, big time depression. I was in the middle of an identity crisis, or what felt like an identity crisis at the time, all while I was in the hell of grad school. My grad school girly, like, if you know, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Grad school is tough, even when you're not in your Saturn return. I always know when someone has Saturn in the ninth house because if they are going to grad school between the ages of 27 and 32, I'm like, this person's in their Saturn return and they are a ninth house Saturn. Absolutely. So yeah, I definitely thought that I could muscle my way through those Saturn return challenges, but it made things worse. So with that, during that time, I actually didn't even realize I was in my Saturn return while I had like loved astrology my whole life and, like, was pretty serious about it in terms of just, like, I wanted all the books. I, you know, just, like, moved away from astrology, like, altogether. It was almost like I didn't wanna face, like, something showing up in my chart, even though I was already feeling and experience it. So, really just, like, the self-doubt, the restlessness, the overwhelming urge to pivot, it was not just in my head. So one of the biggest reasons that I struggled in my Saturn return was because I tried to ignore it. And that is like the one, if I could say one thing with your Saturn return, it's just like, don't ignore the challenges, right? To me, it's about taking the risk, right? So, and I mean, I had a lot of things working for me instead of against me. I have a domicile Saturn in Aquarius, which means that Saturn rules Aquarius. So it does really well there. And I have a day chart, which also means that Saturn is actually on my side and it has decan dignity. If you're like, I don't know what any of this shit means, AJ, don't worry. It's all really just for me to prove to you that, like, I had a lot working with me and I still had a tough time, right? But also, I was not aware of all of this while it was going on. So, if you're someone who has already been through your Saturn return, if you had similar feelings like this, let me know. Let me know in the chat. So, feel free to like put your thoughts, things that happen to you, things that resonate with you, put them in the chat. I would love to hear as we go along. And so with that, I was still working like completely against my chart. And so me sharing this, of course, is not to scare you. Any of my Saturn return info is not to scare you, but It's to light a fire. Okay. So here's what I learned the hard way. It's that when you refuse to take those risks that Saturn is pushing your way, the pain only gets worse because it's just going to stuff it down. And I'm telling you, it will come out one way or another. And I can almost guarantee it is a Saturn transit that will bring it out if you ignored it in your return. I also, if you ignored something in your Saturn return, it's more likely to come up in your opposition. We'll get to that stuff later. So I want to know in the chat, what phase of your Saturn return are you in? So you also could tell me what your Saturn sign is. So if you're a Saturn in Pisces, you're like wrapping up your Saturn return. If you're a Saturn in Aries, you're about to start it. Or if your Saturn return was years ago or you haven't had it yet. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Yes, Saturn Aries. Incredible. Oh, yep. Saturn Taurus for sure. So you've got some time, but this is perfect. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Six house Virgo. Oh, okay. Loving we've got less Saturn Aries going on. Amazing. Okay. So with all of that, you're not alone. Everyone goes through their Saturn return. And you probably often hear Saturn returns are scary. They're overwhelming, terrifying, or even confusing. Yeah, Saturn Aries is coming up. You got it. And I'll go over that. Don't worry, I'll cover that. It is a 2.5 year to 3 year transit that you're told to just survive, right? But here's the thing, they actually are up leveling, eye opening, life changing. In either way that it goes, Saturn returns are life changing, whether it's a little bit harder for you or it's like, I don't want to say easy. I don't like to categorize it like that because there are going to be challenges, but it's a time for you to seriously glow the fuck up. It's being on the other side of it. I'm so glad. But honestly, I wish I knew so much of this before my Saturn return. With that said, I think so. Let's take time for a stick your ass break.
Start looking at children.
It's yes.
I want a millionaire, but I'm already rich.
Yeah.
Looking at children.
Okay.
I want a million.
We can't forget it's a party, okay? We just can't. Okay, amazing. Let's move on. Okay, so let me make sure my screens are all set. Amazing. Okay, another question for you in the chat. What is a Saturn return? What do you know about Saturn return? Saturn returns are like what's known as the cosmic coming of age. So it is when Saturn comes back to the exact position that it was in when you were born. And this occurs every 29.5 years, like roughly around there, when Saturn makes that full rotation around the sun. So if you could think of what your birth chart looks like, it makes its way fully around the wheel until it gets right back into the same position it was in when you were born. So you actually have 2 to 3 Saturn returns in your life. But the first one is crucial, the most crucial, because the idea is that, I mean, you're facing these challenges for the first time. It's when you have, yes, anything you've been ignoring, putting off, absolutely. It's like you are facing those lessons. So, yes, and the idea is that in that first Saturn return, right, that you're coming up against new challenges, it's like you're maturing, you're like officially entering into adulthood. And so you want to get all of that chaos, you want to get through it, right? That's the goal. Now, the idea is that when you get to your second Saturn return, when you're in your like early to mid 50s, is that you can actually reap the rewards a little bit. You've been around the block, you've had a second turn around your chart with Saturn and all that hard work that you put into the first one. And the second one is one that should feel there will still be some change and some challenge, but it is going to be so much better. But what actually happens? Saturn, it marks like the entering of adulthood, right? So it's often referred to as the time that like you tend to get your shit together and you are stepping into more responsibility, more maturity. So often around this time too, it's just like stepping you're really stepping into more independence. The goal too of your Saturn return is to find your individuality, to embrace your individuality. So here's do. I'm going to go through Saturn return through the houses, but I do want to know what your Saturn house is. So, of course, when we get to your Saturn house, that will apply to you. But you can also look at it, looking at all of the houses as when Saturn kind of transits through those houses. So it can all kind of apply to everybody with a Saturn transit, but obviously not as intense or as like life-changing as the Saturn returns. Oh, also, I will be sending out an email after this, and I'm going to include these Saturn house slides for you. So that way you have time to sit with it more because I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to move a little more quickly through these, but I'm going to send you slides so you can, have your time with it. Okay, so we're going to start with the first house. So this is the exploration of self. If you have your Saturn return in the first house, what this means is it is a release of old identities and habits that you've outgrown. So that's will start to reveal itself at the end of the Saturn 12th house transit. So in the initial phase, it's really going to be about exploration of self and discovery and much less about trying to really define who you are because you've got to explore. And that's what Saturn return in the first house is all about. Exploring who you are, getting sometimes it's like going back to your roots. What did you enjoy as a kid that maybe you stopped doing because you felt self conscious about? Also, this is what happens is that your environment and the people around you act as your mirror and they will reflect back to you the things that you're likely avoiding in yourself. This is often why, when we talk about first house being it's the opposite of your second house or second house, the seventh house, first house of self and the seventh house of other. So really it's kind of like I can't remember which astrologer had said this, but they said I liked how they compared it of saying like often how we find out who we are, it's by comparing ourselves to who we are not or like discovering who we are not. And usually that's how we discover that in other people. So that tends to come out within this first house exploration. Sometimes it's just like you get so inward that we'll see that through other people. So, what to do? This is a time to like keep yourself protected and be ready to explore new vulnerability. It's okay to be selfish. And honestly, I say this for any Saturn return in any house, but definitely the first house is consider therapy, counseling, like any modes of healing because you will find out how to understand yourself better and behaviors that will surface. Okay, so then the second house I know some of you say the second house. This is about assessing your worth and resources. So, what that means is gaining insight into the basis on which you have established your morals, your values, and your worth, right? Because the second house is more than just about money and how you make money, but it is about how resourced you are emotionally, spiritually, right? So it's also your security, your sense of safety. And something else that can come up with this is looking at or asking your parents or your caretakers, whoever raised you, if you can, how they nourished you, right? And because often it's like how much touch you received, how were you hugged a lot, right? Like it's really going deep in the second house here with the Saturn return because it's how our needs were met. And often this is going to come back to from when you were a baby And then that is often what comes through and how we value ourselves in adulthood, right? So, kind of, it's like the less that you received, the higher your self criticism is likely to be at this time. So, I want you to keep that in mind if you're a second house Saturn return. It's a very self critical time. So, what I want you to do is be gentle with yourself. Don't be afraid to seek help. It's going to really surface up some deep insecurities. And evaluate your budget. Look at the ways that you make money. It's not uncommon for people to lose an income stream, but it's also not uncommon for people to gain it as well. So, it just depends on if you need to, like, kinda go back into your foundations and rebuild. Alright, let's hit up that 3rd house. This is your mental awareness. 3rd house can be ambiguous. This one can be a little bit tough to, like, clearly define for your Saturn return. But this is where we learn language and communication. So when you have your Saturn return here, it's often when people become really aware of how we use information and our knowledge. It's like we're gathering all this data that we then will use like way later in our ninth house transit. So this can feel super ambiguous because a lot of it's happening below the surface subconsciously. So things like experiencing miscommunications or feelings of like intellectual inferiority tends to come up a lot as well. And one if those things happen, then we kind of look at how we're processing information, all of that stuff. And then anything that really happens, just making sure that we're taking it as a learning experience in the 3rd house. So really make sure that you are stopping any negative thought patterns because they will kind of cement themselves into your entire next like 30-year cycle of Saturn. Organize your thoughts and be patient with other people. All right, 4th house. I know we have some 4th house friends. Childhood and roots. Okay. What this means, your past is resurfacing and it may be uncomfortable. But the idea I want you to remember is that Saturn is not want to hurt you. It wants you to heal and grow. Face challenges to heal and grow, right? So this can bring what tends to happen too is like if your relationship with your parents likely shifts. And especially because 4th house is family and your like emotional roots. So some things can happen is where you get really close to your parents. Sometimes like it's overly close, meaning like you kind of take on their beliefs and kind of hold them to this perfect standard. Or people start to separate a little bit from their parents to gain more independence. So really just cultivating, finding that sense of safety within yourself is going to be important. Embrace your individuality and make sure to step out of your comfort zone. And also, if you can, if you have the access and the resources, trying to look into your family history might be something that is interesting for you at this time as well. All right, 5th house, we've got pleasure and creativity. So this can kind of like blur our sense of self. And when it comes to like being creative, particularly for artists. So this can reveal what truly brings you joy, but also be prepared for serious commitments to happen, whether that's, wanting to date more seriously, get married, start a family, or even like take on a creative project more seriously. Those things are very likely to come up. And evaluating your relationship to commitment. Does it freak you out? Or do you jump into commitment too easily? Those are things to keep in mind as you go through a 5th house Saturn return. Okay. 6th house, this is your house of obligations. And also work, like daily work life could come up here as well. So let me see. Do we have, yeah, we have some 6th house friends. This is likely a time where you feel restless, bored, but more specifically, like being afraid of being boring. And when that happens, if that happens, people tend to take on too much out of fear and then they burn out. So burnout is very common with Saturn return here. Job loss can happen as well. And usually it's from, again, either boredom and just like not putting in any effort, or you wanting to leave your job to find something else, or sometimes illness or injuries because the 6th house is also preventative health. So this can be like a lot of like colds, inflammation, sometimes like chronic health things can come up as well. Don't take on too much though. You really want to make sure you're avoiding burnout as much as possible, even if there are times where you feel like you have some of that energy. I would avoid it. I would definitely avoid it. But it's a good time to pay attention to your mind and your body. They are going to guide you. Okay. And resting as much as possible, this sixth house. All right, seventh house, we've got internal and external. While Saturn is moving through houses 1 through 6, it is all internal to find your individuality. And so with the seventh house, it's now having to take everything that you've learned inward and moving it outward the world. So with this, the shift involves applying what you've learned to help shape your individuality and purpose. And this can be tough sometimes, things like ending of unhealthy relationships, but also highlighting relationships that bring you pleasure and joy. But it's also just like getting serious about that stuff. Another thing too is like wanting to bring your creative talents to the public and not underestimating how much your talents can change the world. So allow yourself to have a rocky transition, okay? And make sure that you are fostering partnerships that encourage respect and understanding. Also, it's taking a look at, the ways in which you contribute to relationships as well. Eighth house is the shedding. So your darkest fears come to light in the eighth house. Okay. This is a house of fear and anxiety, which is why a lot of people do not like the eighth house, but not everything is to be feared here. So again, this is a very common therapy house as well. And with the Saturn return, sexual intimacy becomes more sacred. Even if casual sex was more of your vibe before, serious. So Saturn is gonna probably have you craving something much deeper. Um, it's also very common to want to feel like you want to escape your responsibilities with this return. And so it's also another house of finances, but it's other people's finances. So it's things like loans and taxes, the boring stuff. But I want you to also make sure that you are getting those things in order. Feel free to delve into the mysteries of life. And it's a good time to strengthen emotional bonds. Ninth house. I'm going to hurt my own feelings here. This is the grad school transit. Whether you actually go to grad school or not, your life in a Saturn return here takes on an educational path, pondering the meaning of life. So, Saturn also rules over depression. And, I don't think some people would realize like the ninth house Saturn transit here can really be a depression time because you're thinking about the expanding of your horizons. You're really thinking about the purpose of life. And it's almost like an existential crisis can happen. So that is also something to be aware of. And like, if that happens, like, gonna be okay. It's also the travel house. So if you are traveling for non-educational or business purposes, it's gonna be stressful. Expect delays. That's all I will say. Doesn't mean don't travel, but just be prepared for delays. So, some things I want you to do, it is okay to let go of beliefs, and it is common to kind of move away from those things. Stay open to adventure, and it's a really good time to connect with mentors and guides. All right, 10,000. Let me see. I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, yeah, we've got Delaney. This one's for you. Woo. Okay. This is your adventure, right? So this is your call to adventure. This is your most public image. So your call to adventure can be moving across the country, starting an entirely new career or business. It is really you're stepping into a more authoritative version of yourself. Like you are about to seriously level up. And that's to say, you'll also have challenge. You'll have things to face, right? If you were on a path that you like if you were either unsure about your career or you, like, had no idea at all, like, this is the time that those things will make themselves known. So make sure that you're staying true to yourself. It can be possible to, like, kind of build this persona almost on, like, the high of the visibility that comes here, but that's not going to be useful if it's not truly who you are. So just making sure that you're always checking in with yourself. And again, so fear of the unknown is super strong here. But you have a chance with this transit to reach your goals to their highest potential. This can be a serious, like, glow up Saturn return. So, taking risks is scary, and it may feel even scarier with a return here, but just keep going. Okay. So, here's what you should do: evaluate your relationship to success. So, you may have to revisit some childhood themes here. How was this success modeled for you? Because it's likely seeped into how you view success for yourself. And then also balance ambition with self care. You could end up feeling super motivated, super like you're ready to like put in the work and the longevity, but don't neglect yourself. Don't neglect your self-care. Okay? Whatever that means for you. And then it's a really good time to reevaluate your public image. How do you want to be seen by the world? Make sure it authentically reflects who you are and what you stand for. So yeah, like Delaney, it's like, so this isn't necessarily like the social media house, but this is, I wouldn't be surprised if you feel like you have, like, a revamp. Um, Even it could be like a website revamp. It could be like, your image changes. You, like, might have new ideas in that sense, or maybe launching, like, a new offering, right? That can also come up here as well. Okay, yes, okay, yes. Very cool. All right, we're almost there. We got 2 houses to go. The 11th house, this is your social influence. So, getting your flowers is high here, but getting hate is just as high. So, this is your social media large audience house. I want you to be prepared to answer to people, especially if you've been shady or unethical in the past, because those things will resurface. Really, just be ready to be held accountable. Like, if you say you're going to do something, do it, because people will be looking at you and counting on you for that. People in your community, your friend groups, your influence is really big on other people. So friendships are likely to change as well. Like how you view yourself amongst your friend groups. It will all eventually become clear, even if it's foggy at first. So a couple things to do: be an activist. This is your activist house as well. So put your voice out there, help lead if you can, and do it with authenticity and see how that resonates with your community, with your audience, just with any, and audience can be anyone. That's just like a group of people around you, right? And be innovative and creative. You are meant to do things in a different way, especially when you have your Saturn natal here as well. All right, 12th house is the unseen. This is a slowdown for Saturn return. You are preparing for a whole new cycle to start when Saturn hits that first house. So you're exhausted. And people often crave alone time. But I want you to be aware of whether you are taking time to be alone to recharge, or you're completely isolating yourself, because we don't want complete isolation, right? So with that, just be aware of those two things, right? And the primary issue that can come up as well is the disengagement from expectation of others, trying to remove yourself a little bit of that and kind of lessen the pressure. I really think of this as like, I think of the 12th house is, well, we're moving from the 11th house, right? The 11th house is your party house. It's like you're going to your favorite concert and you're pumped, you're excited. Then you're there, you're dancing, you're singing, like you're getting a drink. And then the next day you wake up and it's really quiet and really still, and you have like the blues. Like the best night ever is now over. That's kind of the 12th house for me. It's like you need to sleep in, right? You need to like take some Advil if you have a hangover, like, like be alone. And it can feel a little nostalgic, it can feel a little sad. So some things to do: take a holiday, take a vacation, go on a retreat. There's no better time for solo travel or retreats, and your first house transit is gonna thank you for it. Okay. It's also a really good time to set boundaries, and mostly like those boundaries are for you, right? And to practice mindfulness as well. So we are going to put a little spotlight on our Saturn and Pisces friends because they are, oh my God, they've gone through it. They have gone through it in their Saturn return. They are about to leave their Saturn return. So, my Saturn and Pisces friends, you seriously made it. You made it because Saturn and Pisces can be tough. And as we could see, we all experienced Saturn and Pisces. But those of you that had your full Saturn return here, you are a real one because as a water sign, Pisces trouble with boundaries and containment. And Saturn, however, loves boundaries, loves structure. So sometimes when this happens, it's very easy for the Pisces to want to retreat. So this can really press up Pisces into becoming critical and like desperate to avoid conflicts. This is also a combination that is more likely for depression, and the world can be and feel extra cruel to a Pisces Saturn person. And they tend to feel the pain of the collective. So, even also like with the world that we're living in now during these really trying times, like I especially feel for you Pisces Saturn baddies even more. I've gotten lots of comments and messages from people who are like, I cannot wait to get out of this Saturn return in Pisces. So let's give them a shout out. Let's give them a shout out in the chat. Yes. That's okay. Did you let me know in the chat if you just came out of your Pisces and Saturn? Oh, your return. Yeah. No, listen, I'm mentioning some of the harsh stuff, but Saturn and Pisces also brings things like boundaries, getting clear on boundaries, which is also really great. It's also about taking your creative mind, your creative talents, and giving them more like serious life to bring out into the world, right? So I don't want to just like, nag on the, unfun things. But we're now transitioning out of Pisces into Aries. So as this is happening, ask yourself, did I become clear on my own boundaries? If you answered no, then when Saturn moves into Aries for you Saturn return friends right now, this is a really good time to then reflect and put those things into action, okay? Now we've got Saturn in Aries. Let's go. Saturn in Aries, friends. Yeah, so let me get you some music. I can't not give you a song. Yes. Here we go.
The sister realness.
Yes. It's your turn, baby. It's giving you your Saturn return. Let's go. It officially is entering Aries on February 13th. So that's next week. And it will stay in Aries until April of 2028. So you will officially be in your Saturn return. So what this looks like, I'm going to go into kind of what's working against you first, and then I'm going to go into what's working for you. Now, everybody is going to experience Saturn in Aries as a transit. So this applies to everybody, but the intensity of it will apply to my Saturn return friends that are going to have a revisiting of this, transit coming back to when you were born. What's working against you? Saturn is actually in fall when it's in Aries. So this means that Saturn actually struggles to express its qualities when it's in the sign of Aries. And this is because Aries is a cardinal sign. They are meant to be the one to take action, initiate action, and do it fast. Saturn, on the other hand, is all about slow and steady progress, all about the longevity, right? They want to make sure you're answering every question, every angle. So, a big theme for everybody with Saturn and Aries is going to be this push and pull between patience and impulsivity, and restlessness is very common. So, right, you have the Aries, like ready to take action, ready to start. But then Saturn is going to be like, wait, wait, wait. Do we know how we're going to finish this? Because Aries also, with the Mars energy, right? 'Cause it's ruled by Mars, it's not always one for the follow through. Very great at having the idea and starting it and delegating. But where they fall short is the follow through. Now, if you can balance these two energies, I actually think this could be incredible. And so, what's working for you is the drive and ambition. Saturn in Pisces can feel sludgy and stagnant and sometimes foggy. So, when you've got Saturn in Aries, this is going to be very entrepreneurial. And I'm looking at you, Delaney, with this also being in your 10th house. This is good. This is big stuff. So finding that balance in taking action, and then what can happen on the other side of it with Saturn is like not taking any action, being too afraid to take action. It's like, these challenges will likely come up with this theme. And that's for everybody. So it's going to require patience. And honestly, just get ready to feel this shift coming out of Pisces, out of some darkness, and into the glow. And also, I want to point out that Saturn and Aries, you return baddies, you have a huge advantage here because this isn't common for everybody. Saturn actually had a brief time in Aries last summer before it retrograded back into Pisces. What the heck does that mean? You got to foreshadow into the themes that will come up during your Saturn return. For the rest of us not in our Saturn return, but experiencing this Saturn transit, you can still look back on last summer and see what themes were coming up because that's going to be the next 2.5 years for you, this theme, right? So the dates specifically are May 24th through August 31st of last summer. That's your foreshadow for your Saturn and Aries return. What was coming up for you at this time? And especially make note of the themes as they relate to the house that your Saturn is in. I would love if you shared some of these in the chats because it can be really cool. You might even also feel those things coming back now, even though Saturn doesn't enter until next week. Like you can still feel the energy coming, especially if you know that your Saturn is in like the early degrees as well. Oh my gosh, Emma. Okay. That happened last summer for you? So it's almost like, so it's almost like, sorry, that those themes of like, you had that break happen and now it's like, how do you move? What is the next stage of your life without that? Delaney, yes. Ooh, love that. Some of the best ones in business. Yeah, I get the feeling for you that it's going to be a big magnifying time for you in a really good way. Yes, Azuki. Yes, same. Your relationship officially bi-coastal. Yes. So often too, when you're looking at the house that your Saturn return is in, looking at the opposite house as well, because those houses do relate to each other in some way. So if you're a 10th house, your opposite house is the 4th house, which will bring up home and relocation, all of that stuff. And often it's like if you get a new job, likely you have to relocate, right? That can be the case. Also got sick. Okay. 4th house. So yeah. And if other themes are coming up that don't seem to necessarily fit neatly into that house's box, there could be other transits that would tell us why. Yeah. Yeah, it's hitting those probably something is hitting the opposite. Emma, I'm sorry, I'm looking over at the chat over here. It's hitting some planets in the opposite house, which is cool too. Okay. Let's keep going. What now? Right? What does this mean? So Saturn return. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's not just about breakdowns. It is about breakthroughs. It was like, that's my cheesy line for the Saturn return party. Breakdowns are likely gonna happen. I would rather tell you this is not like a fear mongering thing. This is just me being realistic. Saturn is about challenge. It can be a tough planet, but it varies. It varies from person to person, like how intense it can feel, right? So I'd rather just kind of tell you up front all the things it could be and that your experience might be a little bit less than that, right? So I try to give you that as much as possible so that you're prepared. I want you to be prepared and not scared. There's another cheesy line for you. But it is the universe showing you where you're out of alignment. Saturn wants to get you back on track, okay? It's pushing you towards your most authentic life. So I want to kind of come back around to the end of my Saturn return and kind of moving into the next phase. I like to call this from chaos to glow up. I was in grad school in my Saturn return. My eyes were always puffy because I was always crying. Never cried more in my life. And I was dyeing my hair pink. It's kind of like we have this theory of like someone's kind of going through it if they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and they suddenly dye their hair like a really bright color. That's just like my hot take. But I was going through it, girl. I was going through it. And then coming out of my Saturn return, the glow up, right? Glow up can be I'll talk a little bit about like what the hell is a glow up, but like just feeling happier, just feeling like I've figured out where am more aligned and like getting to the root of like the questions that were coming up for me in my Saturn return. So from chaos to glow up, when I came out of my return, it was like all of a sudden things were so much clearer. So a lot of times when you're in your Saturn return, you might not even be able to make any decisions, like in this serious way, and you might be confused and unsure. And it's not until after that your Saturn return has passed, till it moves into the next sign, that you start to realize like what was being asked of you and then being able to take that action. The next transit for me, it gave me courage to stop being afraid and to start making the moves that I was avoiding. So I took those risks, right? So I got back into therapy, girl, and I actually was doing the work to more than just like, oh, I'm going to rely on my astrology, or I'm going to rely on, whatever it is. Like, I'm also a very big proponent of like, if you have the means, if you have the resources to seek other help to understand yourself, like, definitely do that. So I was able to do that. And I was in California for grad school. I moved all the way back across the country to New York City with literally no money. My partner and I spent a lot of money to get to California in the first place. Did not think after 2.5 years of grad school that I would go all the way back. But in my gut, just knew I would be happier there, getting back there. And I just really had to trust myself. And I am grateful that I have an incredible supportive partner and besties, people that were encouraging me to go for it. So, like, shout out to the besties. And so then when I got back to New York City as a side hustle from teaching as an adjunct, which is what I got my degree for, even though I know, I was wanting to move away from that as like a full-time situation, I started giving astrology readings, which then turned into this Phantom Mermaid full-blown astrology business. So none of that would have been possible, I'm telling you, if I did not face my Saturn challenges. And I'm going to show you astrologically what I did to achieve this, right? So here's a little picture of my arrow so you can see. This is my ninth house. My Saturn is over here natally. And then this is the transiting Saturn. So it was moving over my MC. My MC is in the ninth house. This is career and purpose, right? So this is why my Saturn return, I was questioning my career and purpose. And also my Mercury, which is my communication planet and curiosity, right? So in the Saturn return, I was taking a serious look at whether or not I was fulfilled in my current career, my path, and finding out, what other avenues were possible. And I never thought, I went to school for dance and to teach dance. I didn't have a minor. I didn't like go to school for anything else. I was good at being a dance teacher, but like nothing else. I thought that was the only thing that I was good at, and there was nothing else I could do, right? So then Saturn moved out of my return and into the 10th house of career. So this is really an echo of what I was experiencing in my return. And it was going over my sun. So even more visibility. And because I knew my astrology, I also knew how to lean into this energy instead of fighting it. So it was after my return that I was like diving back into astrology. So I used my chart as the roadmap for this glow up. And so that's when I realized like most people don't know how to do this. And so I started hearing more from people and, peers and friends my age who were still kind of stuck in their Saturn return chaos even years later. And there was no glow up, no transformation. It is like you start repeating the same patterns and fears and being in the same energy. It's like you think after your Saturn return you survived it and now you can kind of go back to like your old bullshit. That they went through all of that Saturn return hell for nothing because they didn't know how to alchemize that shit into gold. And that's exactly why I created this next thing. I'm so Oh my god. I've been keeping this a secret. I got this idea months ago, but I'm so pumped about it. So I created the Saturn Return Glow-Up. This is a 6-week program for badasses just like you who are ready to enter their glow-up era and expand in ways that they never thought possible. Because that's exactly what I thought. And so obviously, I'm here to not only tell you that it's possible, but also to show you how to achieve it by mastering Saturn in your birth chart. So, with that, my mission is that within 10 minutes of meeting someone, I can tell if someone has had that glow up, right? I can usually tell. To achieve that, you just have to know how to use that energy to reach your life's potential. 'Cause I truly believe that. And so in this program, I'm sharing my best kept secrets and tips. I shared some good tips in here today, but I'm going even further in this program. And, coming from someone who survived their Saturn return and came out better on the other side. And, with years of research and, experience facing my own Saturn fears, I know exactly what it takes to show you how to get to your most best, your baddest life. And really it's the kind that'll make your friends wonder like who your Etsy witch is, because there's no way that your glow up is that good without one, I'm telling you. So you also might be thinking, what is a glow up? So for me, this is actually the first thing we'll cover in the program, like what it means for you. So I like to think of the glow up as like, overcoming the risks that you need to take in order to like get to the next level, get to the next chapter of yourself, get to embrace your individuality and honestly live a life that you maybe even thought wasn't possible for you, but is. And so a glow up can look like quitting your job and finding a new one and moving across the country, starting a business. It can be something like rewiring your mindset, leaving a toxic relationship, also paying off debt. Oh, well, listen, I am working on that one. With that though, to achieve all of this, it's like being able to do it with 100% confidence because that is what Saturn wants. Saturn is honestly, I see Saturn as like, being able to step into your badassness and again, embracing individuality. And you don't have to do it the way that everyone else has done it. You can do it your own way. So a few things here with the Saturn Return Glow Up. It is not your typical astrology program or course. It's unlike my birth chart boot camp mini course. And here is why I say that with confidence. Oh, you guys, I'm so excited about this. Here's what's going to set it apart. I am sharing my Saturn Return Glow Up framework. And I use this with clients, especially in my Saturn Return readings, that kind of like hard launches you into, a life that you're obsessed with, a life that you maybe I haven't thought was possible for you. And I know these are like some like cheesy things to say. And oh my God, me and my Saturn return, I would have been like, who is this? No. But I say it because like I've experienced it and I feel so much better on the other side. And I just believe like with your astrology, like I can also just help you. I can help you get there. But it's more than just theory. It's truly like giving you that roadmap with your astrology for that transformation. So it's also a holistic chart analysis. So I'm not just going to be looking at your Saturn when we meet in this program. I'm going to show you how other transits in your chart affect your Saturn return. And again, this can be even if your Saturn return was years ago, even if it's coming up at any phase, we're going to get one on one time in this program. So I'm going to look at your chart and I'll be able to give you exact guidance just for you. But we're going to also include things like perfection, secondary progressions, right? And if you're like, AJ, I don't know what that means, I got you. I will take care of you in this program. I will make sure that you get it. Okay. A few more things, right? It's results focus. It's not just me info dumping. You're going to walk away with a Saturn Return Glow-Up plan. You're going to know exactly what to do to get to that next chapter, that next level, right? It's not just about learning astrology concepts. It's also targeted timing for maximum impacts. So, if your Saturn is in Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, or Aries, you are absolutely in the sweet spot because you are in that area where you can still feel Saturn's impact, or you're going into your Saturn return, right? You can really harness that glow up before your next big Saturn transit. But again, I'm not going to gatekeep. If your Saturn is not in these signs and you're feeling called to join, come, okay? So it really I want to meet you where you're at to just like give you the maximum amount to transform. And a couple of other things, we've got community and ongoing support. I'm going to be using the Telegram app and I will be dropping weekly horoscope insights. You'll connect with other people in the program and you're not doing this alone. We're building a support system. And last but not least, I am so excited about this one. Okay. I am bringing to you an exclusive immersive experience kit. No one else in astrology is doing this. You are going to receive, as part of this program, a carefully curated immersive kit that's going to be mailed directly to your door. And it's something that engages all of your senses that's going to help ground you into the experience of the program. So it's not just another Zoom call that you're probably going to forget about, right? This is going to help you connect to the things that you're going to be learning and implementing. So it really is a sensory experience. It's going to bring it to life. So in the kit, you're going to get specialty items that are going to correspond to the theme of that week. And I'm going to keep those things a surprise, and you'll kind of unwrap these gifts as you go along in the program. But I can't help myself. One item I reveal are these little handcrafted worry stones that I've made. I have a bunch of different colors. I've already started making these. So you'll get one of these. A worry stone is just like really helpful for like anxiety and like, the sensory of just like touching it. So I'm super excited about that. And with that said, one special party goer in this room is going to receive a free mini immersive kit. So you're not going to get the full thing, but I'm going to give you a little taste. So I'm actually going to spin the wheel. Let me just make sure. Okay, super pumped about this, you guys. All right, here we go. And oh my gosh. Oh, sorry, I just realized you can't see on the screen. But it's Laura. Laura, you're going to get a kit. You're going to get a mini version of the kit. Yes, yes, yes. And if you do decide that you want to join the program, you will still get that full immersive kit, and I'll make sure to throw in new items for you. All right, here's how it's going to go down. The first week, we're going to go into that glow up goal. We're going to meet Saturn in your chart, turn Saturn fears into empower, make it that birth chart 101. I'm going to show you everything that you're going to need to know with astrology. In the second session, we're going to go break it down in depth, Saturn in Capricorn, all the way through Aries. We're going to start opening up those immersive kits, and we do live chart readings. The third session, we're going to go into the Saturn houses, open up your kit, your second item, and also chart readings as well. We've got some annotations happening. And in the fourth session, I'm going to show you my Saturn Return Glow-Up framework and we are going to get to the third item and live chart readings there as well. Okay. Fifth session, I'm going to show you how to harness the Saturn and Aries transit. Again, more live chart readings. And then by the last session, we are going to do a glow up integration, how you're going to utilize everything you learned and put it out into the world for yourself. Q&A and next steps. My biggest thing here is that it's not too late. If your life feels chaotic, maybe you feel like you're stuck in a rut. If you're wondering, like, did my Saturn return, is this possible for me? Because my Saturn return was years ago, right? Or if it ever really ended because there's just been no relief. So if this sounds like you, I can guarantee that you ignored taking risks. And when you muscle through the challenges, you're just burying them beneath the surface. They're going to come back up. And again, it is not too late to deal with them. And you just really have to be willing to take those risks. And luckily for you, that is my specialty. So if you are feeling ready to, stop fearing Saturn, master those challenges, you are absolutely perfect for the Saturn Return Glow-Up. So with that said, everything in the program, live sessions, glow up framework, one-on-one readings, ongoing support, like direct access to me, a community of other badass babes, lifetime module access, immersive kits. This is something that's valued around $2,927 just based on what I charge for coaching, readings, courses. But listen, I'm not charging that. No way. No, 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 no. Especially for you party goers, I've got a special price for you. Okay, until 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, you can purchase the program for $497. $497, pay in full, or two payments of $250. I was really excited to have this, something even more special for those of you that took time out of your day, who were able to come here live, to just have a special price for you. Because additionally, you guys, if you purchase the program, you automatically get a free 30-minute reading. Not entered to potentially win a reading. You get a 30-minute reading. I am giving you a 30-minute reading when you purchase at our party goer price, okay? I'm so pumped about that. After that, though, the early bird price will go live for everybody. And the early bird price is still really great, $555, pay in full. And that's by 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight for me. I know we're all different parts of the world, but so just know you only have a few hours for your party goer price, okay? And to get that free reading. And this is exclusive. This is just for you guys, because then tonight it goes live for everybody and the price will go up slightly. On February 16th, it then goes to its full price at $777. So there's kind of like 3 tiers of pricing. Delaney, if you want to unmute, or you don't have to, or just I have the chat open so I'll be able to see you, but just making sure you can see the charts. Just let me know. Does this look familiar? Cancer rising. We've got your Capricorn sun and Aquarius moon. And then, yes, your Saturn in Aries.
Yep, that's
Okay.
me.
Woo! Okay, fantastic. Okay, I'm just gonna do a quick, put a timer on. Keep us track. Let's do 4 minutes. As we might go a little bit over. Okay, fantastic. All right. Okay. So let's look at, okay. Ooh, interesting. Looking back at your chart. Okay. You have your nodes there as well. Okay, yeah. Your MC's in the 9th house as well. Okay, let's look at I'm going to put the transits up as well. Kind of look at when it gets into that house. We'll go the 14th. Okay, so for you, Delaney, with your Saturn being in an early degree, so the inside wheel, that's your birth chart. And the outside, those are the transits. So that's where the planets are right now in the sky and kind of like where they fall against your birth chart. So with that, girl, you got Jupiter on your ascendant right now. Oh, I love that. Okay. So you'll likely feel more of your Saturn return, I would say like intensity in the beginning because it's in an early degree. Now, that does not mean there's like some astrologers out there who will say like you're only in your Saturn return when the Saturn is conjunct your Saturn, right? And then once it passes it, you're not in your Saturn return. That's BS. You're in your Saturn return while Saturn is in the sign and the house that it was in natally for you. So at 2.5 years, we all get the 2.5 years. Like I said, you'll have a little more intensity and it's on your south node. So with the south node, these are things that you tend to like when you're looking at the north and south node. The north node is kind of like what we strive for. To me, I see it as like what happens when you step out of your comfort zone and take risks and like the amazing shit that can come from doing that. But you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. So your south node is like your comfort zone. It's the things, the actions, like the traits that kind of come naturally that you learn kind of as like protection. And you shouldn't completely abandon those things, but it's kind of like also where it can keep you stuck. So, those things can surface for you a little. They might come to the surface for you in this beginning part of your phase, or in your return in the 10th house. So it can be things around public image, visibility, and success, kind of feeling like what your purpose is. And it can be things outside of your career, right? 10th house doesn't just have to be career purpose. Some people, just an example, it could be like, someone's purpose could be like to be a parent. And it's like kind of like your legacy, what you're known for. It's like, oh, they are known as X, Y, and Z. So that can come up for you. Do you feel like what were the things that were coming up for you again last summer?
Oh, things were actually going really great. I feel like everything was just falling into place. And now, retroactively looking back, it was kind of that Pisces slowdown, the like mugginess kind of happened after that. And now I'm realizing what just happened. So I'm like excited.
Yeah,
Let's
totally.
go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also like for some people, it's like not being challenges. The like Saturn challenge is not scary for people. Like, oh, the music. Oh my god. Well, it's also like your relationship with challenge. So like, do challenges excite you, right? For some people, it's super scary to have their world completely shaken. But like for you, it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know my path. Like, this is just like pushing to the next level. So that is super fucking exciting for you. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to like to hear kind of like what comes up in the first like couple of months while it's in like the early degrees for you. So yay. Amazing. Yes. If you have other questions, put them in the chat and I'll answer them for you as well. Okay. Yes. All right. And then, all right, we've got Sarah. Let me.
Hello.
Okay, Sarah.
Do you still have my info or do you need it again?
Let me see. Let me see. I should still. The heck. Oh, recently used. Here we go. Right?
Yep, that's
Oh,
me.
amazing. Okay. All right. 4 minutes on the clock. Okay. Awesome. All right. What would you like me to look at? Do you want me to look at Saturn? What that looks like for you? Or kind of like, oh, you know what?
Yeah, because I'm well past. I think I'm like heading closer to my second one then.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay. You know what? You actually, I love the timing of this. You actually are passing, you're coming out of your Saturn opposition. So let me just go to, because yours is in the 6th house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's moving out and it's in a later degree. So like you were really feeling that towards the end here. So with a
Yeah.
Saturn opposition, it can almost bring up the things that were happening in your Saturn return. but maybe it's more for you. Maybe it could have been more around like mental health or a mindset shift or, with the opposition in Pisces, like spirituality coming to the surface in some way. What challenges were any challenges around that coming up for you in the last like 2.5 years?
Yeah, it was like I just kind of like blew everything up in that sense and like went on the whole like dive into like more spirituality, brought it all back, like kind of
Yeah.
decided like that's where I was like, don't want to be a nurse anymore. What direction am I going to take? Just
Yes.
tearing like pieces kind of all down. And then a lot of similar health things that had happened like back have flaring themselves back up.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And it's interesting. I think we might have talked about this in the birth chart boot camp, but also right with nurse helping others, like this 12th house theme, and especially in Pisces, that you're almost like that opposition coming back around and it being like, well, actually, how are we going to do this differently? How are we going to, either move out of the avenue or like, take on your own way of doing it, which is very interesting. I should say. What were you saying? You had some health things in your Saturn return. Were there any? I'm so sorry if you said this. Were there any job things? Because this is also like,
No, because I looked back to see like when it was, and I would have started like nursing a few years before then. I think around that time might have been when I changed into more the critical care like branch, but that's why I was like joking, like, oh, because then I was like working my full-time job there. I was working tons of overtime. I was teaching nursing. Like
yeah,
I literally just was like working, not
yeah.
working.
Did you feel like burnout at all?
Not till like years later.
That's what you said. Yeah. Also,
I like kind of like work and then like party, like work and party. That was like that we're going to grad school. My grad school was like doing this because nursing was a second degree. So I had
yeah,
already like done a degree and I was like, oh, this is
yeah,
nothing compared to what I had done.
yeah.
And then I was just like, let's just party. And I'd work and party.
Yep. Oh wow. Yes. Also, too, it's like with this in Virgo, it's like the amount of work probably doesn't feel like it would for somebody else that would probably hit burnout sooner. But
Yeah.
it's almost just like, yeah, nice balance. Let the fucking party.
It's like the party was like people would look at us,
Yeah.
like me and some people there, like, seriously, you just worked like all of that. Like, for an example, right around that time, I would have we worked, finished a night shift, went to the airport, got on a plane, went and partied in Vegas for 5 days, came
Yeah.
home on a red eye and went to work. And people were like,
Yeah.
are you not exhausted? I'm like, it's fine. Like, do
Yeah.
it.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So it's kind of
Wow.
like what's coming that one moving into Aries. I'm like, okay,
Yes.
with this like opposition and
Yeah. Totally. So yeah, you'll the like pressure alleviating a little bit on the opposition because oppositions are they're a challenging aspect. So
and then going into my nodal opposition. So it just one to the other.
I know, right? But then, so with Aries moving into, I'm sorry, with the Saturn moving into the first house in Aries, it's the like your new identity, like the shift into your new way of being and doing things, right? We talked about like, stepping into something totally different. The challenges that you experienced maybe in the 12th house, it's like, okay, how can we put this into reality? How can we really get this started? And it's kind of like explore, do things that you want to do, approach it in a way that you want to approach it. So it's really about you. The first house is you. So I would definitely say like be selfish. Do it your way, even if it's a new something you haven't tried before. I would just say like explore and try it. And through that you'll kind of discover what your way will be. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's-
Amazing. Yeah.
And then just a question, because I do have like Saturn in retrograde.
Yes.
Would that maybe be why I didn't feel as much of like in my first Saturn return? Because I'm like, I
Return?
don't really remember anything crazy. Like I didn't have any
Yeah.
like big things because like it always just there a bit? Because I know when they think it's a retrograde, it's a lot more like internal.
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, some people's, I wouldn't necessarily say it was because of your Saturn being in retrograde that maybe it didn't feel as something, like crazy. It also, not all Saturn returns are going to be these like insane experiences. For you, it wasn't. But having the retrograde really is like, yes, it can be more internal, like in your life, like in general. Saturn's qualities are a little more internal. It could just be that like delay in like the Saturn lessons come a little bit later. Yeah. That's really what I would say with like a retrograde Saturn. It's a planet that's farther away, so you're not going to feel it as intensely as like a Mercury retrograde, but it still has those significant.
Every one of my outer
indications.
planet is retrograde.
Yeah.
I know they're in it more, but I have every
Yeah.
single like that's okay. They've just all decided to retrograde that.
That exact time. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. Same. Oh, yeah. Also, same to like Jupiter. Yeah, you'll feel those a little bit more. It really can be like you're meant to learn a like life lesson in the planets that are retrograde, or you again internalize those qualities more, or there's just more delay. Like you'll experience the fruits of the labor of those planets maybe a little bit later.
Okay, because yeah, it's got like Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all retrograde.
Yeah. Yep. That's that's not as I mean, having a lot of retrograde planets in your chart isn't as uncommon as people would think. It's more uncommon to have no retrograde planets. Even like the nodes are often in retrograde, which doesn't make any difference really to them. Yeah, yeah. So honestly, outer planets, generational planets, it's really not going to be anything crazy, even though all of them are that way.
It's a lot of charts I look at have like some of them, and I'm like, oh, like all of them are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Wild stuff. I'm so grateful. You will be receiving an email from me as soon as I get off of this call with the link and the slides. I'm going to give you the Saturn house slides. So, I'll chill here for a few more minutes if people have questions. But if not, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that you guys came, and I will be sending out more info. All right, guys. Yes. Thank you, Laura. Yes, thank you, thank you. So much fun. So much fun. The vibes. Am I right? Thank you, Delaney. So exciting. It's so fun to see so many friends.